There is a debt crisis looming, and it's measured more than just the amount of debt and deficit spending, and it's measured more than just the rising prices of goods and services and commodities like silver. I'll explain what I mean in this video as we explore. That's right. There's more to silver than just its price. Many of you have heard me talk about that and mention that time and time again. But with silver, it remains constant except for the changing supply every year that is introduced from mining. And that's really the foundation and basis of which this video we're going to give to you as part of a series called The Debt Clock and Silver. Let's take a look at the debt right now. It is over $37.4 trillion, staggering. And by the way, it's a bipartisan problem by any measure. Yes, indeed. You can't just blame a single party for it. And nonetheless, people are so used to government spending, and even Elon Musk says that it's easier for him to get to Mars than it is to cut spending in Washington, paraphrased. But this is what we're dealing with here, folks. And this seems like a crisis to me, but for most politicians, they don't seem to care. Maybe it's because of what's going to be happening down the road. More than likely, we're going to come to a head at one form or another. Recently I posted a video about hedge fund billionaire Ray Dalio said about gold and what to do during a crisis, because it could end just like that, a debt crisis, or an economic crisis like a heart attack. It could come and sneak right up on you. And that's certainly something that could happen at any moment. It seems like the powder keg is there. When and how will it happen? Well, people have been predicting that for ages. But one thing we ought to look to get an idea as to what's going on in the health of the economy is not the price of silver, but the ratio of silver. That's what this series is about. This is a way to measure silver against the money supply, because that's a more telling tale of what's going on in the world today. And right now, it's at $1,221. That's these Federal Reserve notes for every ounce of silver mined, divided by the world production of silver in ounces. That's right. Those are the metrics that we're looking at here. So in other words, this is year over year increase in the U.S. money supply, the M2 money supply, divided by the yearly world production of silver in ounces. Let's take a look at it. This is the Fed, the Federal Reserve, St. Louis Fed, that tells the tale of what's going on. We can see here that it is rising yet again. It stopped for a little while, all but very briefly. Quantitative tightening really just was a quantitative pause more than anything. The money supply barely went down during that period and then paused here, and now it's picked right back up, more so than where it was at its peak in June of 2022, which is when inflation was at its highest. Of course, the Federal Reserve is going to be cutting rates very soon, no question about that, but will they continue to print money? More than likely. And then you compare that with the USGS's report about the amount of silver that's mined year over year, here in the United States, but also look for other areas around the world, and we can see what's been happening here, of how much has been produced. So that's where these numbers come from. And so that is the ratio of the year over year increase in M2 money supply divided by the yearly world production of silver in ounces. They can only mine so much of it, but they can literally just digitize dollars out of thin air, and they do it. It's a fact that's much harder for them to just print, and that's a lot easier. A lot easier for us, just run up the printing presses, but they can just digitize it, which is infinitely easier than printing it. And so there's nothing at all. There's no material cost involved for the most part. Whereas for silver, to mine an ounce of silver, it takes a whole heck of a lot of time and effort to make that happen. And hence why we have the ratio where it is. And that goes to show you really the true value of something, even though we don't really measure that by the price because of all the derivatives and the complexities of the silver market. like most anything else. There's futures, there's options, and there's the ETFs and the like. All that complexity is just exposure in one form or another to investors in the market or to the metal, to the price of the metal, but not for the metal itself, which is why it's good to have physical silver on your person. And it's incredibly paramount to have that in your stack, and it's worth paying the premium, in my view, to have it. Of course, right now we're starting to see the price rise up even more. We're well above a 14-year high as I've recorded this video. It is now surpassed $42 an ounce. And will it stop? Will it keep going? And we're getting close to, some people can taste $50 silver right around the corner. It was less than a year ago. You'd have been crazy if you said it was going to be happening right now. Well, not anymore. And this is now the new reality we find ourselves in. But the price truly does not reflect the actual value of silver, especially compared with gold and other commodities, and when you take into account other factors. But notwithstanding, that's the way the market works, and that's just the way it is, and which is why we need to think beyond price with silver. But I think that if you are buying or selling silver, it's good to do your research and know who you're dealing with. The channel sponsor here is Summit Metals. They're a great company. They have excellent customer service, and they sell silver, and they also will buy it from you as well. So check them out. Next time you look at their Sell to Us page, they have the prices listed there, but check out Summit Metals. But when we think about silver, we think about something that's solid. We think about something that does react to the environment. That's right. Sulfur in the air will cause it to tone. There's other ways that it can spot or be surface, can be treated in certain ways. But beneath those few molecules or few atoms that are affected by those elements, silver is pretty much a very stable element on the periodic table. It is the most reflective, very malleable. This is why it has such worth in society today. Over 10,000 use cases for it. And what does our government keep doing? Everything to keep it down, I think, in a sense, because of the uses and the like out there, and the ways that they are steering people in a form away from true sound money. As noted in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, that nothing but gold and silver shall be money. Silver is money. It's dormant money right now. But nonetheless, with the debt rising up $37.472 trillion, with a federal deficit budget over $1.9 trillion, that tells you everything you need to know, that this is running on such a fast pace that the debt to GDP ratio is now at 123.85 right now. That's wartime numbers right there. That's kind of spending going on. And even with the stuff that Doge is doing, it's a drop in the bucket of the savings they're doing compared to all the spending that's out there. They just can't keep up. Spending keeps going and the Doge clock keeps ticking, but as we can see, it's a losing proposition, and something's got to give somewhere, and it very well could be a crisis that's brewing, and we may already be in it, just not know it yet. Either way, one thing that will not change in terms of its physical properties is silver, although its price is starting to reflect a little bit of what is going on out there. Many of us feel the price should be even much higher than where it is right now. Although understanding the markets means that's not going to be the case for quite some time. So what does this mean now? Well, it means that the dollar is losing value. That's inflation. In fact, it's lost about 96.23% of its values since 1913, according to the debt clock. But let me tell you something. I think that's kind of a lowball figure. I think it's lost closer to 98% of its value since then. And when compared to gold, well, all bets are off the table, especially when gold's price is so high right now. But even compared to silver, I'm telling you, and when you look at silver, the dollar to silver ratio over the past 5 years, it's even more, $1,556 per ounce. So that tells you we're on an unsustainable path. But it can sustain for quite a while. Why? Because the dollar is the top dog of all the other currencies out there. There's no comparison there. So a little different perspective in this video. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. And what I aim to do here is to bring you the latest news and analysis and perspective on precious metals, in this case silver. So if you enjoy what I do here, I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. Work hard to bring these videos to you, trying to grow the channel. And I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to subscribe and to watch the videos. So with that being said, I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, and yes, subscribe.